What's up guys, Lowe's here from the Big Retro Show, and this is a follow-up to my previous Open BOR video, and I'm back with some more awesome Open BOR games for you to enjoy. What's more, I left a link where you can download these games and play them when you are done watching this episode. Speaking of watching, make sure you watch till the end. The last game is one for the ages. Let's get right into it. Anyone who loves the Strider series will want to dive into Strider X. I have to admit that I'm a casual fan of Strider. I mean, I played the arcade game and I love Strider Part 2 on the PS1, but that's where my knowledge of the Strider universe ends. Strider X is an open BOR game that lets you play as Strider and some of his homies, including the Red Strider Kane and the Black Strider Cypher. Each of the Striders have their own special attacks, but pretty much play the same. The story in this game is a bit convoluted. It's a bit more than I wanted to know about the Strider universe, but that's okay. Fans of Strider who are familiar with the lore will have a field day. From what I can tell, Strider was just chilling with his friends within the Marvel and Capcom universe after a battle with Onslaught, when he is called back into action by his BFF Kane. Kane tells him that Hein is back and he must take him out. To add to the problems, Hein has taken over control of Strider's nemesis, Zane. Not being one to let his enemies live, Strider sets out to hunt down his foes. One of the reasons why I love open BOR games is that the hobby developers have really made the game into their own. One of the splash screens in Strider X clearly mentioned the creator, Christopher L. Benson, and states that the game was created by him in his spare time and not by anyone at Capcom or SNK, and I love that. The game's combat can be confusing at times. This is mostly because of the sheer number of enemies that the game draws at once. I have to add that there is no slowdown, but there are a lot of dudes to fight. Luckily, you have all sorts of special attacks at your disposal, as well as power-ups that refill your life and give you life. Each character has a grapple move, as well as a pretty sweet dashing jump attack that can take out a bunch of enemies at a time. The enemies you will be fighting in this game are mostly from famous Capcom and SNK series, and that's pretty cool. The game's graphics and sounds lend themselves towards characters and settings found in SNK and Capcom fighting games. One of the things that I found most charming about this game is that you can be the other Striders, including Kane and Cypher. It's pretty cool playing as these two, and I had most fun playing overall as Cypher. At any rate, this is a game that deserves to be played by beat-em-up fans and a bonus for fans of Strider. These games are meant to be enjoyed by everyone for free, and as such, I will be including a link to this game and the others that I mentioned in this episode for you to download and enjoy. There's so much to love about Harlem's Hero Crisis Evil. This is an open BOR game based on the original Resident Evil franchise in which you take on waves of zombies as either Chris Redfield or Jill Valentine. The game starts off in the streets of Raccoon City, and throughout your playthrough you will be fighting in sewers, mountain ranges, the Resident Evil mansion, and the evil lab where you will face off against the Tyrant. The game's controls are pretty basic, but that's not a bad thing. You can jump and punch, and you also have a button for a special attack. The combat in this game can be frustrating, mostly because Jill's melee attack is actually her pistol, and she takes time to reload it, leaving you open for attacks. Chris, who is noticeably buffer in this version of the game, uses a melee attack as his main attack and is slightly easier to use. Both characters have grapple attacks and dash attacks, which are helpful but overall weak. I found that your dash attacks and your main attacks are your best bet for getting through this game. Your character's special attack consists of a grenade launcher in Jill's case or a flamethrower in Chris's. The graphics and sound used in the game are excellent and fit true with the Resident Evil theme. You'll be fighting zombies, bloody zombies, lickers, hunters, a dog, and birds in this game. There are no bosses in this game except for the Tyrant at the end, and I wish that we could have had more bosses to fight in this game because it would have helped round it out. After you defeat the Tyrant, you get to play a bonus Dino Crisis level and play as a heroine of that series, Regina. It's a nifty little bonus in this game that is a welcome addition. In all, this is definitely a game that you will want to play if you love the Resident Evil series as much as I do, and it is a refreshing perspective on the series. Doom Ultra Violence is one of these games that you can fly through, and is probably not a beat 'em up in the truest sense of the word. It's more like a beat 'em run, if that's even a word. In fact, it's not, I just made it up. You play as a space marine who must clear out the demons from the Mars research facility. You do this by taking on scores of demons with either your pistol or your rifle. This game is comically easy, as your weapons behave much like they do in the first-person shooter, where it doesn't take much at all to take out your foes. The one thing about Doom Ultra Violence is that this game definitely lives up to its name. There's a lot of blood to be spilled, and it's you who will be doing most of the spilling. The combat in this game isn't necessarily a hand-to-hand affair, but you do get to use a chainsaw or throw your enemies with the press of a button. Most of the fighting you will be doing in this game will be from a safe distance and with your chosen firearm. Your character can also jump and fire, but it's pointless since you are firing straight in the air and your enemies don't jump at all. Like, at all. They are actually really dumb and don't try to flank you at all in the least. They all just kind of line up for you to mow down. Your moves are rounded out by a dash attack, which is really just you either using your rocket launcher or your chain gun. As your special life draining attack, you get the BFG. And yes, it's just as fun using it in this game as it is in the original. Doom Ultraviolence has some strong points, including its music and sounds. They are both done really well. The graphics in this game are not what I was expecting. I have played a lot of these OpenBOR games, and some of them have graphics that are really polished, such as He-Man and G.I. Joe. But the graphics in this game mirror the ones in the original Doom, like in the deathmatch stages. I don't know how I feel about that, but oddly it works. I just think they could have done a better job with them, probably giving us a more lifelike take on the Doom story. At any rate, this is a game that you can play for about 20 minutes, beat it, and then say you played it. I played a lot of Nintendo in my day, and some of my favorite games include Metroid, Castlevania, and Super Mario Bros. Still, I don't think I've ever played a game that takes some of my favorite characters from those franchises and puts them in a widely inappropriate beat-em-up. More on that later. I totally thought that this game was an OpenBOR game based on my favorite childhood movie. But boy was I wrong. The story in this game is wild, and well, let's just say it's not something you would expect coming from the wholesome video game company that is Nintendo. At any rate, you start off this weird adventure by picking one of 5 characters, including Mario, Luigi, Donkey Kong, Samus, and Sagat. Yes, Sagat from Street Fighter 2. As you beat the levels, you eventually unlock Richter Belmont and Wario. This game is a violent beat-em-up in which you take on various characters and enemies alike from beloved video game franchises. There are stages set in the Mushroom Kingdom, on Planet Zebes, in Transylvania, and in other famous Nintendo locales. This is part of the fun. Getting to beat up people in the Castlevania level, that's known for its side-scrolling, is a thrill. The combat in this game, as you would expect, is hit or miss. Mario and Luigi's reach is horrible, but look out if they get you up close. Samus's arm cannon is great for keeping enemies at bay, but if they get up too close, it's not so useful. Donkey Kong's reach is also bad, but he can fly through the air and do some rolls. Sagat is quite buggy. He freezes every time you do a tiger knee. Richter Belmont's melee attack has the best reach, and Wario sort of sucks all around, moving at the pace of molasses. It makes for a varied experience depending on who you choose to play as. The enemies in this game are the same ones you will find in games like Metroid, Castlevania, and Super Mario Bros. There is a lot of blood involved in this game, and since I like all things like this, I didn't mind it. But it could be traumatizing for some younger Nintendo fans. There are also alternate versions of the heroes to fight in this game, such as Princess Peach and the dude from the NES Double Dragon. The creator of this game surely had his own sense of humor. Just look at what he decided to name some of the enemies. Hilarious. This is why I love the OpenBOR community. They make things their own. The creator also cooked up the story that made me chuckle at times and made me cringe at others. In all, this is definitely a game that you have to experience on your own, and can only do so by getting into OpenBOR. I promised you a doozy of a game, and I deliver. Talk about a freaky game. Jennifer is an OpenBOR game like no other. The amount of blood and disturbing scenes is ramped up. Right from the beginning, the guy who brings you back to life is having sex with your dead corpse. Ew! As a very dead Jennifer, you rise from the grave to take revenge on the people who killed you. This game is a beat-em-up horror game mixed with blood, guts, gore, and nudity. Sort of like an 80s horror flick. You start the game only able to crawl and swipe at enemies. You quickly gain the ability to walk, jump, punch, and swing a sword to perform fatalities on your enemies. As you take out zombie after zombie, you learn new skills that are performed with half-circle stick movements, along with the special attack button, the jump, and attack buttons. This adds a lot of dynamic to the game. The combat in this game is fun, and boy is it bloody. You can perform dash attacks and grapple attacks against your enemies, or just impale them by forming spikes from your body. Using your special moves, you can also barf on them and throw projectiles. Jennifer reminds me quite a bit of the young lady in Exorcist, in that she has demonic powers and will be using them against her foes. You might notice that the graphics have an old film filter effect on them, which at times makes it difficult to see the action. This didn't bother me, but I think the graphics need more polish. Another thing that needs a little bit more polish in the game is the level design. Some stages don't make it past one screen. Other times, the game won't let you advance no matter what you do. There are some bugs in that sense, mostly with the game not knowing whether or not to advance you to the next stage or not. At any rate, if you can get past these issues that the game has, this makes for a very interesting OpenBOR experience, albeit an extremely creepy and disturbing one. I have to warn you that this game is not for the faint of heart. There is copious nudity in the game, so it's best not to play it with the kiddos around. And these are just 5 OpenBOR games that I found in my travels, and there are tons of them, guys. So if you like this episode and you want to see more of this kind of content, let me know down in the comments. If you enjoyed this episode, consider subscribing to the channel and leaving a thumbs up. And I will catch you guys next time on The Big Retro Show.